Hey there, friends, and welcome to this episode of SelfKind with me, Erica Webb. We are doing a Tuesday Tidbit today, and I want to talk about what happens when we just assume that we're going to fail, that we expect that we're going to fail, how that can shift us away from perfectionism, shift us away from self-blame, and those feelings of like, well, I'm just not cut out for any of this, and keep us moving towards what it is we want. So, what if you expected to fail? Not in the kind of way that maybe your brain has immediately gone to, like, oh, I always fail. Of course, I'm going to fail again. I'm the worst, right? Not that kind of expecting to fail. What I want to talk about today is really this idea of leaving space for our very humanness, leaving space for our humanity in our expectations of our own behavior. So, when it comes to self-care, when it comes to living a life aligned with what it is that we want, the reality is that sometimes we are not going to get that perfect, right? We often hear about like turning over a new leaf on a Monday morning, or really finally getting this right on the first of the month, or as New Year's often kind of has this flavor of, right, this is the year that I get it done, right? And there is this sense of expectation on ourselves that in order to be getting it right, we're getting it perfect. We're never failing. And we wouldn't fail if we could just do good enough, right? If we could just try hard enough. And I want to suggest that because you're human, that doesn't work. It doesn't fit. And so having the expectation of failure can often be much more helpful. And it's interesting because as I was kind of writing up the notes for this episode, I thought, someone's going to say, if you're not trying hard, though, you're not really trying. And it's interesting how our brain wants to go immediately to binaries, right? We want to go, well, if it's not, this, it's that. We kind of go from 0 to 100. And so there might be this thought of like, well, if I'm not trying to be perfect, then I'm simply not trying. And what's the point? If I'm not giving it everything, if I'm not expecting 100%, then what's the point in giving anything? And I think this is part of the problem because when we believe that it's perfect or nothing, we really don't give space for the fact that we are imperfect humans, that we make mistakes. We tend to have a lot more grace for that in other people than we do for ourselves. But what we do when we set ourselves up with these expectations of like, it needs to be perfect or it's nothing, is that when we then inevitably do fail, we think that we're bad people. We think that it's a reflection on our goodness or enoughness. And that simply isn't true. So an example of this might be, you've set out to do a self-care practice and you've decided that you're going to do yoga 3 times a week. And the first week goes by and you're motivated and you're committed and you do it, and all 3 of those sessions happen. And then the next week, maybe it happens again. And then the third week, you don't do any of them, or you do 1, or you do 2 minutes, and you start to beat yourself up being like, see, this always happens to me. I'm the worst. I can't stick with anything, blah, 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 blah. And the pattern there becomes, I am bad. There's something wrong with me, rather than, this is interesting. I didn't show up for this week. How can I be curious about that? How can I be compassionate towards what's going on? And then just kind of keep going in the direction of what it is that I want. And I think that this idea that I will fail, there will be days where I don't do what I said I would do, it leaves us with space to choose, which is the most valuable thing that we could do. Now, I want to rewind a little bit here and talk a little bit about this word fail, because I'm using it on purpose, but it doesn't quite reflect what I mean. So I'm using the word fail because it is quite emotive, right? If we just expect to fail, that doesn't sound that great, right? We're like, I don't want to fail. I never want to fail. I always want to be doing a really good job. But that's what it feels like, right? It feels like failure when we don't meet our own expectations. But understand that that has a very real feeling too. And so maybe the better word to use here is what if you expected to be imperfect? What if you left space for your imperfect humanity? What if you left space for you to show up as you are on any given day in any given period of life? We are so hard on ourselves, and that hardness on ourselves can lead us to really thinking that we are a problem. And you just aren't. You're not the problem. You're not a problem. Can you leave more space for your humanity? Can you expect that, yeah, sometimes I'm not going to live up to my expectations? It doesn't mean I stop trying. It doesn't mean I don't move towards the things that I want. It just means that when I don't meet the mark, I'm not going to beat myself up for it. I'm not going to make myself the problem. And this is the thing, right? If we're moving towards something like self-care because of the way that it makes us feel, then perfection can't be our goal. It can't be. Because if perfection is our goal, we're always going to let ourselves down. Always. And if the only reason to go after something is to make sure that it's perfect, it's not a good enough reason. Go after it because of the way that it makes you feel when you show up for it, not because you can tick it off a list and be like, well, I did that perfectly this week. I can feel good about myself. No, do it because it nurtures you. Do it because it fills up your cup. Do it because it supports you to feel more resourced to face the world, right? To face life. Those are the reasons, not perfection. And you're not going to get it perfect every day of the week, every moment of the day, every year of your life, because that is not human and that is not how we function. All right, that's my Tuesday tidbit for you today. What if you simply expected to fail? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come and find me. You'll find me over on Instagram at Erica Webb _SelfKind. You can email me, erica@ericawebb.com.au. Or of course, if you're watching over on YouTube, you can just pop your comment below. I will look forward to talking to you again on Thursday. Please remember that if you've got requests for topics, I am all ears. I would love to hear from you. If you want to work through some of this stuff one-on-one, I have got space. So I am currently taking on new one-on-one counseling clients into November and December and January. So please feel free to reach out if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I need support with this. This sounds great, but I don't know how to do it. This is some of the stuff that we can work on together in one-on-one counseling. I take a somatic approach, and so there's that real sense of like connecting the body and the mind, body and brain. So if you're curious about that, you can reach out to me via any of those methods that I just talked about, or just visit the website, which I will pop the link for in the show notes. All right, until next week, keep being kind to yourself. I'll talk to you then.